Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm excited about my guest today. We'll start with Logan Smalley and later introduce you to his brilliant wife, Stephanie Kent. We'll talk about the project they're working on together. But first, I'll introduce you to Logan. He and I met years ago when he was traveling through Wenatchee, promoting a film called Darius Goes West. He'll tell you more about that. Thanks so much for being here, Logan. I'm so excited to see you. I love your backdrop.
Oh, thank you. These are the Call Me Ishmael phones. We'll tell you more about those later, but it's so good to see you again.
Yeah, so we met, as I said, when you were passing through Wenatchee. I don't even remember how I found out about it. I don't know if I got a press release or something, but tell us a little bit about Darius Goes West and just that tiny part that became this really big thing in your life.
It's been a long time since we were in Wenatchee, but I do remember it, a lot of it, like yesterday. I remember getting to take to the ice at the Wenatchee Wild game in between the second and third period. Darius in his wheelchair, hitting a turn like a Zamboni. Darius Goes West is a nonprofit documentary that I directed and edited, and it stars my friend, Darius Weems, who has since passed away. He was born with the fatal disease, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. But before he passed away, he had a wonderful life, 28 years of life. When he was 15 is when we shot the film. And then he spent the remainder of his life promoting the film and raising awareness. So what is the film about? It's a cross-country road trip where Darius and his friends, myself included, leave Georgia. Darius leaving Georgia for the first time. That's where we're from, Athens, Georgia, to try and get his wheelchair customized on MTV's Pimp My Ride in Los Angeles, if you remember that show where they
I do.
customized vehicles. And so it was a cross-country trip, tons of awesome stops along the way. And also along the way, we were evaluating wheelchair accessibility as part of the then 15th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we were also raising funds and awareness for his disease, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And so I don't want to spoil the movie because it holds up. I hope everyone will watch it. But I will say that before Darius passed away, something amazing happened. He spent, his entire life, his entire young adult life, raising awareness and funds for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. He was able to raise about $3 million, gave it all to Duchenne muscular dystrophy research. We were able to provide seed funding for a particular study that was going on that was not in human clinical trials yet, but over the course of Darius's life, it made it to human clinical trials, and it ended up becoming the first FDA-approved treatment for Duchenne muscular dystrophy in history. And the very last conversation I had with him, which was on his birthday, he died 2 weeks after his birthday, was telling them that a study that he funded ultimately became the first FDA approved treatment for DMD in history. So what a life. I mean, that's the impact. The movie is about, just having fun on the road. And of course, when we met, just to get back to where you were asking, we were on a year-long road trip raising funds and awareness through the film, so doing screenings of the film. So that's how we ended up in Wenatchee, on the rink and in people's homes and, where whoever else would have us. We were kind of a rowdy group.
Yeah, it was really fun. Just the energy that you guys brought. I brought you into the radio station. I had a radio show then, and just the energy that you brought, and just Darius was so charming and so funny, and just, you could tell he was just taking it all in. So, I mean, not many people get an opportunity to have an impact like you did and Darius did and still do. So yeah, it was just a chance meeting I'm always grateful for. And, you inspired me in thinking about getting outside of one place and visiting other parts of the country and storytelling. You're one of the greatest storytellers I've ever met. And
Okay.
I believe in storytelling as much as I believe in almost anything else. So,
Well, your work with, the Don't Wait Project has been inspired, and, I enjoy following it along, and I'm really grateful that we've stayed in touch over all these years.
Yeah, it's good stuff. We are talking with Logan Smalley. He is the director and creator of the film Darius Goes West. He talked to you about Darius and his friend, his late friend, who has had a huge impact. And now we're going to hear about TED Ed, the next great step in Logan's life in storytelling. So tell us, I want to know, just from the very start, how do you become someone that creates something from any TED point of view?
Oh, good question. So like the way that I got involved with TED is actually through Darius Goes West. So when we were traveling to raise funds and awareness for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, we did some unique things with the documentary. We kind of did a Kickstarter campaign before there was Kickstarter. We did something very revolutionary where we put our DVD extras on this new website called YouTube, so that there would be a interplay between the hardware of a DVD and the soft new thing, you know, called YouTube and the internet, where we could have a two-way conversation with our community. Anyways, on all those adventures and trying to be innovative about storytelling, Darius and I were both recognized with TED fellowships, which means you get to go to the TED conference. You get to, you know, sort of special support in meeting people and telling your story, give a talk, and you're supported by the TED network to continue trying to do good things in the world. And one of the features of being a TED Fellow is that you get to pitch a project. And so before I had been a filmmaker, I was a high school special education teacher. So my two loves in life were teaching and filmmaking. And this was in 2009. I pitched something called TED Ed, marrying those two loves. They said, good idea, bad timing. TED was a smaller org than we know now, and they wanted to do education justice. So fast forward to 2011, where they said, good idea, good timing, and asked me to come on and pursue, you know, the vision I had laid out for TED Ed. It's very different than what I pitched. Now it's but some things remained. Basically, the mission remained, which is to spark and celebrate the ideas of teachers and students around the world. My team, if you've ever seen the animations that TED produces, which are viewed about 2 million times a day, my team is responsible for all of those. Each animation is a collaboration that we produce between an expert, be they a teacher, a scientist, both, and a professional animator. And then, of course, we also add sound and music, and each one's a kind of 3 to 5 minute short film that is a free, high quality educational tool that's used by students all over the world. They're translated and sometimes dubbed into over 100 languages. And, you know, in pandemic times, they've been extremely valuable as a, you know, free, high quality learning tool that, like I said, is being used at a scale of about 2 million learners a day.
I've watched so many of them, and I am not science minded at all or math minded, but when I watch them, I get it. And that's the whole point, right? Just another approach to learning that is relatable to so many people, obviously 2 million people a day.
Yeah, thanks for watching them. Yeah, we take a lot of time. Each one of those, we publish 3 a week, but we sort of, you know, one of our big achievements, I think, was creating a really innovative production pipeline where we can produce 60 at once. So it takes us 4 to 6 months to produce any one, but because we're always producing 60 at once, we're able to publish 3 a week and make a real dent in the need for high quality free content. So we're up to about 1,500 TED Ed animations now. You can watch them all for free on our YouTube or our website. And they've been viewed nearly 3 billion times now.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about the pandemic and having quality education available for free online, I've seen you post a couple of different times, different things that you've come up with specifically for pandemic times. Can you talk a bit about a couple of those ideas that came through that pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I talk about those TED Ed animations and publishing three of them a week and then being viewed at at a, global scale. That's the beginning of what TED Ed's trying to do. What we're really trying to do is spark the curiosity and the creativity of students around the world watching these videos, and get them to go from being consumers of educational content to producers of their own ideas and their own stories. So really what we're trying to do is constantly get them to sign up for another free program that we call TED Ed Student Talks, that gives them the sort of training and support and opportunity to identify, develop, and share their ideas in the form of a TED Talk. So it's basically speaker training, but it's more than that, because in an interconnected world, right? Like here we are on Zoom, and millions of people are connecting, really billions of people are connecting every day. The ability to articulate your idea is increasingly important the more connected the world is. Both being able to exert your own story and opinion and opportunities out into the world, and your ideas out into the world, but also learning how to do that is one of the best ways to protect from other people exerting their ideas on you. So it's a form of media literacy. One of the best ways to understand that all things are editorial is to actually produce an idea yourself. And so I'm not saying, don't trust the New York Times or anything like that. I'm a subscriber. I love the New York Times. What I'm saying is it's really important in terms of critical thinking and media literacy to understand that media is something that we humans produce, we put out there. And I think the more intelligent, the global population is in sort of understanding that, and the more empowered they are to, put forth their own ideas, the better society is. So that's a big part of TED Ed. It's a little bit of a deeper, a little bit more of a mouthful, but that's what's happening. And so we have over 20,000 TED Ed student talk groups in over 130 countries developing talks. And, a student who learns how to claim their voice, they'll be voting age in a few years, and they'll make that voice heard. And I think that's a good thing for everyone.
I think about that too when we were kids, and we, for some people in high school, or even I remember back when I had to teach the class how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in Mr. Nielsen's class, and you had to write out the steps, and I forgot to tell him to take the lid off. So he just kept hitting the jar with his butter knife. And so I think about storytelling and public speaking, and for so many people, even adults, it's still a very challenging thing to stand in front of people or even collect your thoughts in an efficient way. And having given a TEDx talk myself, and knowing the time limit and knowing that there's a very succinct message that I want to give, I think I had 3 TED Talks in the beginning and had to narrow it down and narrow it down and narrow it down and practice and practice and practice. And so for students to learn that skill much sooner at that level is really extraordinary. It must be incredibly rewarding work.
Yeah, and I love your TEDx talk. And I think I think you said a thing there, right? It is extremely challenging and it's very scary, but it's a learnable skill. So we try and create, free, high quality tools that help people in a safe, contained way take that next step. And then just assuming, an improvement cycle, they'll be in a position, anyone can get to a position where they can articulate and share their ideas in a way that enhances their life and the lives of those around them. And that's all we're going for.
Well, you're getting there. I mean, you're there. You just get to do it in different ways every day for your job, for your job. That's a pretty extraordinary opportunity every day to get to think about how you can make the world a better place.
I'm very grateful, and I have a very amazing team. Anyone who sees this should not be picturing me doing all this. I have a 21-person team who is awesome at everything they do.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to meet your lovely wife, Stephanie, and we're going to talk about Call Me Ishmael and a bit about the book that's coming out. There it is.
Sneak peek.
Yeah, mine arrives today. It didn't get here. It didn't get here in time for the show. I'm bummed about that, but I will be diving into it this week. We've been talking with Logan Smalley. He is the director of Darius Goes West, which will be available on Amazon soon. And he is also the founding director of TED Ed. Now we'll introduce Stephanie, his wife. They have an amazing new project coming up. And I'm so excited to finally meet you. I feel like I know you from Facebook and different things, interactions with Logan, but it's nice to meet you.
Today. Yes.
Well, welcome to the show.
You're finally going to explain these weird rotary phones behind us.
Yes. So let's talk about Call Me Ishmael from the very beginning, how it started and why, just how it started. How did you come up with this idea, and what it's evolved into is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, so the project started when we were actually both working at TED is how we met, and having a couple beers at this sort of literary spot in the West Village called the White Horse Tavern, sort of famous in the 60s for being a hangout for different creatives and writers. And I guess that energy is still there because that night, as we were talking about books and opening lines in literature, had this sort of funny idea that we could take the famous first sentence of Moby Dick, which is Call Me Ishmael, and create this quirky little project about it. So the idea was that Call Me Ishmael sort of seems like a pun. And what if we gave Ishmael a phone number and invited people to call and leave him anonymous messages about the books that they love? So 24 hours later, we had rigged up this old-fashioned answering machine and invited a couple of the great readers in our lives to call and leave messages, and they were beautiful. Like, we didn't really give them very much instruction, just leave us a message about a book you love. And they weren't giving book reviews. They were telling stories about how books had changed their lives, or the books that made them see the world a little bit differently. And we started sharing those messages online, and more people started calling. People we didn't know started calling. And now, 5 years later, we've got thousands of these messages, and they're coming out in book form for the first time.
That's
right. So when you started Call Me Ishmael in the organic way that you just described, did you think as these messages were coming in, maybe this will be its own book someday? Or did it just evolve as time went on because you're 5 years later?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the dream of it. Just the sort of joke that the project is this beautiful mix of old and new technology, that we've got voicemail machines and we use a typewriter to type up the transcripts and share them online. And we created these funny little guys behind us, the rotary phones that are installations we put in bookstores and libraries where people can listen to the messages. So just in thinking about old technology, I mean, a book is pretty much the perfect piece of technology if you really think about it. So it was definitely always on our minds. It went through a couple of different iterations, I would say.
Well, I think like the interesting thing is sorry, I have it right here. It's a phone book. So we're actually reviving the phone book, like the old, sorry, I don't know if this is allowed on.
No, show it.
But
yeah,
remember the yellow pages, you know, I know this, that not everyone will remember this, but it's interactive. You can call Ishmael's number and dial an extension. So for example, anyone can call 774-325-0503. You can leave us a message about a book that you love. But if you dial extension 4632, you'll hear a message that someone left about Pride and Prejudice. Or if you dial 1042, you'll hear a message that someone left us about the Sneetches. And there's thousands of extensions.
Wow. So there's a number, there's an extension for all of the books that you mentioned that you write about in your book. Call Me Ishmael.
Thousands, yeah. So you should tell them, like, so it's like interactive listings where you can hear people. You use your real phone to call. And what else? We got one interview with a independent bookstore in every state, listings of many independent bookstores in every state.
A little checklist so you can mark off the ones that you visited.
Yeah, let's see what we got in Washington. Here, you keep going. You keep telling where we.
Yeah, so, you know, just in thinking about this concept of a telephone directory and what would a literary phone book be like, we kind of thought about, you know, you really use a telephone directory to discover places and make contacts, make connections to your community. So in thinking about that, we sort of started wondering about bookish places, spent the summer doing the most fun research project you can imagine of locating literary tourist destinations in all 50 states. So we have everything from the house that Alice Walker grew up in to
Georgia,
to museums that feature interactive displays on children's book art, like just all of these cool things that as soon as we're out of this pandemic time, we're hitting the road to go visit all of them.
Yeah. So we got the
That's one
product.
way to promote the book, right? To go to all these places that you wrote about, but maybe haven't been.
Yeah, and we have the listings are all displayed in creative categories, but we also have a state-by-state experience. So I was looking at the 3 books that are featured in Washington. Of course, we have Twilight, The Boys in the Boat, and The Art of Racing. So in one way, shape, or form, the stories that were called in place those in Washington. I think the actual stories took place, but sometimes it's either way. And then literary landmarks, we got the Brodigan Library and several more. So it's been such a fun, quirky, joyful project, and we're so excited to see the book finally launch.
Yeah, I saw the video of you opening that box of books for the first time, and as an author myself, there's really, I mean, that's just one of the top exciting moments in a writer's life.
Yeah.
And it's available everywhere, really. The book is available everywhere, but you're encouraging people to go to their local bookstore.
Yeah, and you can also go to callmeishmael.com where we link to bookshop.org.
Mm-hmm.
It's this great new site that allows you to reserve books in a really smart, sort of one-clicky kind of way at your local indie. So it's just a great that like everyone regardless of our book should support bookshop.org. It's a good thing. That's right.
Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you all the best with your book, and I will see you hopefully next spring for the New York City stop of the Don't Wait Project tour, which will hopefully resume next year.
We would love that. You are welcome wherever we land when we move.
Yeah.
We can't wait to have you over, just like you had us over in Wenatchee.
All right. Thanks so much.
Hey there, Ishmael. Hi, Ishmael.
Hi, Ishmael. I am in the middle of a parking lot at 1 in the morning.
I saw one of your little rotary phones, and I thought I might leave you a message.
I knew I had to call because last night I was sitting alone quietly weeping after finishing When Breath Becomes Air.
When I was about 10 years old, my father gave me an original copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And at first I wasn't really too interested, and I kept putting it off until one day the power went out.
A book that really changed my life is Registered Themed. This made me rethink my entire life. I recently broke up with a boyfriend because I fell in love with a woman.
Early last year, I had a premature baby. Soon after he was born, I decided to read him The Little Prince.
I would come home, my daughter would point to the bookshelf, and I would say, pajama time? My wife's like, enough of the pajama time. No, pajama time. Every night, pajama time, pajama time, pajama time, pajama time, pajama time. All through the day, pajama time. Every time she's going to nap, pajama time.
His story took me back across 18 years of time, as my mother, too, took her last straining breath. Her breath became air, too.
I grew up with a single mother who was hopelessly addicted to crack. On my 11th birthday, she bought me a copy of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Like Harry, I knew what it was like to hide in the cupboard, to be abused by the people charged with caring for you.
I had my heart broken for the first time. My cute 8th grader girlfriend dumped me. I thought, well, I'm going to see what this is that happened to me. So I looked up Heartache.
Sadly, when he was 8 months old, he passed away, and I really felt like this book just was him. He was the little prince in this book. He went back home to a star. I know that if I look up at the stars, he's there with me.
So I allowed myself to believe for those years that Harry could be rescued, so could I. And we'll both who lived.
I
I have places to go. I have mountains to move. I have brains in my head, and I have feet in my shoes. I can go any which way I choose.